Hey, just me at the top of the episode again to let you know that we have a Patreon page. So that's patreon.com/won't be forgetting that pod. There's going to be a few little extra bits on there this year. We've got some extra bonus episodes. Now, they won't be a weekly thing, but they will be as they come. They've got some fantastic guests lined up for there, some fantastic stories as well, which one of which I have been witness to in person, so I'm very much looking forward to that one. It also really just genuinely helps this podcast run, if I'm being honest with you. It's... I don't want to sound like a bloody bleeding heart, but it does become a little bit expensive with all the equipment and the software and getting the guests and all the blah, 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 blah. So anything that you can give genuinely does really help. And it is genuinely appreciated from me. So that's patreon.com/won't be forgetting that pod. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Won't Be Forgetting That, a podcast talking about all of the most awkward and embarrassing moments people have had whilst working in the arts and entertainment industry. I'm your podcast host, Seb Muirhead, and today we have a guest. They are a comedian, a writer, a performer, Grace Jarvis.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Hopefully.
So I don't know if you've heard any of the previous podcasts. Sorry, my microphone stands are falling over.
Immediately broke the microphone stand.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. We're
awesome.
working.
We're in it.
So that's perfect. So that's a little peek behind the curtain for all you beautiful perverts of how...
The arts. It's mostly holding microphones up.
Oh, I swear to God, man. This whole thing's just held together by duct tape. But
respect your boom operators. They're doing a harder job than you think.
I think people in sound, not to go off on a massive tangent to start off with, but people in sound are the most underappreciated people on a film set.
Oh, they are truly the heroes, even in a comedy club. Like, I don't know if you saw the, Matt Rife special that came out recently.
No, not yet.
He's just like a full maniac and...
Oh, really?
He's so insecure and weird that his audience is all women that he's gone in this horrific right-wing direction where he's, writing jokes for, the boys that are just weird hack misogyny. Anyway, it's not important. People have covered it. But at the end, apparently, he, drops the mic, which is so cringe in the first place. But also, I'm like, you want to piss off your tech? Those are expensive. Don't drop the mic. Oh, my God.
You don't own the microphone as well.
No.
Matt, right?
Your tech wants you dead now.
Yeah,
and,
right.
That's the last person you want to piss off.
Exactly, right? Because they fucking have all your data.
They're in charge.
They've recorded everything. They can just delete it.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, they can just corrupt it.
Truly, they can turn your mic off.
Yeah,
and they should.
Oh, fuck.
A call to action to all techs. I feel like you should wield your power more often.
They have
Someone's
so much power,
on stage,
but they never use it.
They never use it. We got maniacs on stage saying the horrific stuff. Turn off the mic.
This is a shout out to everyone that's coming up, to all the techs that are going to be working in Adelaide and Melbourne and Perth over the next few months. You have the power. Take it back.
You have the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except from, obviously, if it's anyone that is our friends, so don't turn off their mics.
Yeah. It's like take back the night, but take back the mic.
Yeah, take back the mic. There we go. Oh, I'm going to start a new podcast. It's a spin-off now. Sorry, but I do like to start off this podcast with little compliments, because I do bring in people that I genuinely admire their work and I think are super talented, and then basically just get them to exclusively talk about the worst moments in their career.
Yep.
And I think Matt Stewart brought it up. Firstly, just saying I'm a good comedian, by the way.
Yes.
This makes me sound terrible. And I was like, fuck yeah, I've never even thought about that. I'm always so appreciative of everyone coming on here and sharing all their embarrassing and awful moments that they've had. But yeah, I'd start off by saying, firstly, why are you so popular? You're touring, we were just talking about this before the podcast started, you're touring all over Australia for the next, 4 months, is it?
Yeah, it's actually wild.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that is happening because I've sort of, over the years of my career, incrementally added a new festival every year.
Yeah.
And this year seems to be I'm doing them all.
Back to back as well.
Back to back,
and that's just the first part of the year. That takes you up to May or something like that, is it?
May, end of May, and then I'm moving overseas, and then
London's got you.
Desperately begging bookers in another country to know that I'm good, and then Edinburgh. So
are you doing Edinburgh Fringe again, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. So you did Edinburgh Fringe last year as well, right?
Yes, yeah.
How was that? I'm from just outside Edinburgh originally, but I went to acting school in Edinburgh, and I've done the Fringe with the absolute privilege of actually living in the fucking country.
Oh, man.
So I haven't spent thousands of dollars to go over and beg people in the streets to take a flyer that they're inevitably just going to be like, that looks crap.
It's so demoralizing.
Yeah.
It is actually wild. It's so strange because everyone has... I mean, maybe other people were genuinely having... a lot of people have come back and gone, I'm never doing that again. I remember, I think... someone told me that they got nominated for like one of the big awards the one year they did it, and they still never went back. They were like, I had a good run and I still don't want to do that again.
It's like, it's crazy. Just like the amount that you have to be on all the time as well. And you're sleeping, from what I've heard, again, very privileged, never had to sleep in somebody's couch of like a 18-person flat, which is built for maybe 1.5 people.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was in a dorm last year, but it was a dorm, so the beds were horrific. And also my bed was under what I think used to be a fireplace. So it was
that sounds like Edinburgh.
like a concrete cave above my head.
Oh, wow.
I would like wake up and put my legs on the ceiling. It was quite a good stretch, actually. I didn't mind it.
I quite like that. You're like tucked away in your little nook.
Yeah. It's sort of like sleeping in a coffin, but I liked it.
Yeah, that's very Edinburgh as well. Yeah. Like there's a lot of like city built on top of a city on top of a city.
On top of a plague pit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of actual coffins just buried under Edinburgh.
No, I like it. It's a good vibe. I reckon. Yeah.
I like it as well. It's weird. And I like the plague. I don't want to sound controversial. It wasn't a good thing.
No, not good. And we're anti-plague on this podcast.
Coming out right now and saying anti-plague on this podcast.
Hot take.
That's my next new podcast as well, as anti-plague as well. Yeah. But yeah, like...
It's just hand-washing demonstrations over and over again.
Yeah, right? And
don't go near rats.
Burying people in vaults as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, if you don't know about that, look up Edinburgh vaults.
Mass graves, baby.
Yeah.
They have a purpose.
Great. Yeah. No. A lot of the time, they weren't mass graves. They were just putting people away
people alive.
that were alive.
Yeah.
Which then turned into mass graves.
Yes.
So. Why has it started so depressing?
So dark. I'm so sorry. This is exactly my vibe.
No, I love it.
I bring in a puffy sleeve and a harrowing plague pit tail.
It's very confusing as well. Like, dressed so nice and vibrant, and then you're just coming in here talking about burying people underneath.
That is half my problem professionally. Like, this year I've had to actually make an effort to... Like, I've asked people to give me... Because I had a really good time in Edinburgh. Like, I sold, like, really well, considering it was my first year. Like, I had a really good time. It's funny because I was still having, like, you're still having a nightmare of a time, but also... I was like selling fine. The shows were okay. All my friends were in the same place at once. Yeah. You know, it is kind of like comedian summer camp. It was, fun, but also I was crying.
That's just the arts, I think.
That's the arts. Yeah. It's the arts. But it was also just like your self-esteem is just on the line at all times. Yeah, just, right. You never not.
You live and die by a night. And you also kind of live and die by that 2 hours that you spend on the Royal Mile flyering every day as well.
Just like watching people drop your face on the ground is like, it's really bad for your brain.
It just touches your hand and you're like, oh, you littered, but I've contributed to that.
I've been part of this. Why?
Yeah, I know, right? And then there's just circus performers screaming to get people's attention, and then every local's like, oh, fuck off, don't talk to me, fuck off.
I'm like, I know, but yeah, I did a gig while I was over there that was like, it was a family-friendly gig, which is my nightmare, but they do pay better.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
And they were like, it doesn't have to be comedy for kids. It just has to have no swearing, no, like, sex stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Not talking about mass graves.
Yeah. I can do that. And then I started doing my set, and I was like, wow, I really have to edit on the fly. I thought I was a...
Did you not, like, come in like, just crossed out some of the words or some of the themes?
Well, I thought that I was fine because I was like, well, they don't have swear words in it, but then it's like my themes are, like, autism and suicide. And like I'm like just coming back.
Heavy stuff for
kids. But also it was like a 400-seat tent.
Oh shit.
There were no kids in there. It was all old people because I think school had gone back. And I've never bombed so hard in my life. It was 400 people and I stood there to silence for 10 minutes. I just did my set and I was like, you hate this. Like, you actively hate this. And then like circus performers got on after me. They're flipping upside down. They're handstanding on each other's backs. Also silence.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay. So I've got this theory that every old Scottish person just hates everything. Like, just regardless. Whether or not they're actually hating it as well, they're just like stone-faced, just like battered by years of like Scottish winters, just like... No, that was good.
Well, I was
just
like...
stone-faced, nothing. They give nothing.
I get that too, because I'd be watching shows and being like, in my head, this is so funny, this is so good, and then I realize that my face has done nothing.
I do the same as well.
But
I
was like,
to react.
But I was like, these guys are flipping around. Like, they're risking their necks, literally.
Literally. I love circus performers as well. And I love watching circus. I don't love all circus performers.
No.
And I'm sorry for any circus performers listening. You're a bit of an odd bunch.
Yeah.
And I've got friends in the circus, so I can say this. I'm that guy. But yeah, like...
Horny clowns. That's why.
Oh my God, they are, right? I literally think that has been like said at least every third episode of this podcast. Sex clowns as well is what
Sorry,
they get
oh
called.
God, I'm so sorry to participate in the clown slander, but if there are any young performers out there going over to any fringe festival, don't fuck a clown. Like, I just need you, I need you to not do it.
That's my fourth new podcast as well, is don't fuck a clown.
Tips and tricks to avoid.
Acrobats, maybe. Stay away from those clowns.
Yeah.
The bottom of the rung.
Absolutely
right
not.
But again, like, they're impressive as well. They're so impressive.
They really
think
are.
That sometimes people watch circus and they're like, I have no context of how to do any of this, so I don't, like, it's not that impressive because you don't understand it.
Completely different realm.
Whereas if somebody just does one backflip, they're like, oh, I can't do a backflip. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if they do like some triple twist, they're just like, that what?
It's the same thing I feel watching someone like know what to do with an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And so that to me looks impressive, but also you don't seem to be reacting like it's very hard.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not allowed to be impressed by this.
I think it's like that with, honestly, a lot of like software-based things.
Yes.
Like when people edit things on computers for like sound or video, I'm just like, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, this, and then they've got all these graphs and stuff that they move sliders up and down on. And I'm like,
oh my God.
wow. So like my direction of, can you just make it look better? Isn't helpful, but you did it.
Yeah.
Like, thank you so much.
I did my own tech for like 2 nights at the New Zealand Comedy Festival last year, and I was like,
Think you were on stage and teching yourself?
yeah,
How does that work?
I was at the sound desk because the guy who was doing it had to go back to Auckland for something else, and so I was
Okay.
like, I can just do it. It's like a really small room. It was like a studio part of like Bats Theatre in Wellington, and it was just like the tech desk was kind of in front of where I stood on the stage anyway. So I just like put the music up, and then put it down, and then picked up the microphone and walked on stage and was like, "Hello, it's me. I was doing the tech." And also, I didn't light myself correctly. My director was in that audience the whole time being like, why is she blue?
So you just gave yourself a blue hinge?
Blue light, and like I was wearing...
Tinge, not hinge. What am I talking about?
I was wearing red lipstick and it looked like black.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember what colour dress I was wearing, but afterwards everyone was like, oh, you're wearing a red dress. I thought it was...
Oh, you're not blue. Oh, wow.
They fully could not see. And I was like, why aren't they... They thought like it looked like a weird like Warhol pop art painting.
Did it work for the set though?
Not really.
No, okay.
I mean, it was fine. It was a good show, but they were
you were
like,
lit at least. People could see you.
People could see me. People could hear me. And honestly, they could have heard me if I didn't have the microphone. It was a pretty small room, but
microphones always assist.
Comedians have 2 things that we need. It is to hold the microphone and for there to be an audience.
Well, that usually helps as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a comedian myself, obviously, but I have heard that audiences, like the larger the ones as well, the better.
Essential. Every time I do a gig in front of like a really big crowd and my mum or my dad is watching, I think my first ever like big show was when I was still living in Brisbane. It was like for the Brisbane Comedy Festival, what's it called? It's like a women's charity. Frocking hilarious.
Oh, yes,
so
yes,
it was all female comedians in Brisbane Town Hall.
Yeah, cool.
And I thought it was going to be in the like 300-seat upstairs one that I had seen Hannah Gadsby the year before. Yeah. And then I got there and it was like, no, it's the like 600-seat with the organ behind you that Will Anderson does.
Holy shit.
And I was like, oh my God, this is like a big room. And I was the first person that got there. So they were interviewing me and I was like 19 and like... They were waiting for like Mel Buttle, Becky Lucas, like I think Judith Lucy maybe. Like they were waiting for actual
all these
comedians.
Veterans,
but because I was the only person there, they were like, I guess we'll get backstage content of just this girl having a panic attack. So
crying in front of an organ.
God, I hope none of that footage ever comes out because I think I have no idea what 19-year-old me would have said about like women in comedy.
Like sometimes you get interviewed, and especially when you're not expecting it.
Oh God!
Like the blinders just go on, and you come out afterwards, and you're like, What the fuck did I say?
Literally, what the fuck did I say? And I did that gig, and it was like truly the biggest gig I'd ever done, and I was shaking the whole time. And my mum afterwards was like I did really well. My mum afterwards was like, yeah, you do really well in front of a big crowd. And I was like, yeah, mum, that's kind of...
Thanks.
Yeah, like...
That's
she
the
said
goal.
It's such an earnest compliment of like, yeah, in front of a big crowd, you really just like, you crush it. And I'm like, yeah, because That's sort of yeah.
That's like
It kind of makes it easier.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
For the most part, I suppose those 400 Scottish people still hated me, so it's not a hard and fast rule.
Again, maybe they didn't, man.
They might have been
Honestly,
English,
I'm
to
just
be
saying.
honest.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it. Well, that makes sense then. But like, yeah, Scottish people just don't show their emotions. I think that's the main problem, especially the older you get there as well. You just push it down as far as deep down as it can go.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah.
I watch my Scottish friends, and I'm like, I need you to say more things now, so that it doesn't become a problem later.
Well, yeah, that's what the problem is as well. That it does. It just snowballs, and then people don't understand. You're like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Yeah."
I'm not like a hippy dippy, like your emotions cause illness, but I'm like, I think we should think about bowel cancer and emotional constipation as a straight line.
Yeah.
Like it's not unlinked.
I think that's why Scottish people, I always say we age like bridge trolls. I think that's why, because we just never talk about anything. We just wear the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we're all just like,
you're so far north.
I know, that's a problem. And we've got terrible diets, and it's always cold.
Penguins are all over you.
The penguins?
Is it penguins up there? Do we have penguins? No, we have penguins down here.
Yes.
Polar bears up there.
I don't think we have polar bears.
No, well, in the north.
Oh,
in
the north.
Arctic.
Sorry. Yes. I was like, fuck, have I been missing out on polar bears the whole time I lived in Scotland?
No, you're right. Shetland is not as close to the Arctic as I thought it was, but, you know.
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, it looks
mostly
cold.
known for their ponies and not their polar bears.
And their seals.
Are they? Oh, yeah, that's true, actually. We got a shitload of seals.
Seals are great.
Always terrified me whenever I was in the ocean in Scotland.
Oh, they're terrifying.
Yeah, right?
They're so scary.
They'd come up to you, and I was like, we get sharks occasionally there.
Yeah.
I used to surf in Scotland, which is the worst idea ever, because it's so fucking cold,
That's
obviously.
Truly sound like that's a properly unique sentence. I don't think I've ever heard
there's
those two things
little,
before.
little community up there, I'll be honest.
That's
like, we
awesome.
got, like, Scotland's nothing but beaches.
Yeah.
And, like, there's so much surf around there. You just need to wear, like, full wetsuit and the hat and the little mittens and the booties.
And
it's still miserable.
Ideally orange, so people can find you if
your
you get
body
swept
afterwards.
away.
Yes, that is one of the prerequisites, is they must be able to find you washed on shore afterwards. But yeah.
That's what I find funny about anyone who comes to Australia and is afraid of sharks. Well, it's funny to me that people come to Australia or New Zealand and are afraid of things where I'm like Americans especially, I'm like, you guys have bears.
And guns.
And guns! I'm terrified of bears.
Yeah.
Like, snakes only bite you if you really scare them. Like, bears will come after you.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable fighting off a snake, but it's the size of a stick.
Yeah.
A bear's the size of a fridge.
I mean, I
Bigger.
don't. Yeah, well, exactly. I don't advise you fighting off a snake, but if you have a shovel, you can just cut it in half.
Exactly, right?
A bear is going to cut you in half.
Yeah, a shovel's doing nothing
immediately.
against a bear.
But the sharks thing is so crazy to me because, like, surfers dress up like seals and go in the ocean where the sharks live.
Seal-shaped board.
I know, and the sharks bite them, and then they don't even want to eat them. They bite them and go, "Oh, sorry, you're not a seal. I'm so sorry." But it's because they're sharks. They don't really have nibbling capacity.
No, they got rather big mouths.
So you're kind of fucked. But it's not the shark's fault.
No, right? Whereas it's like those bears, man. And we're like coyotes or like mountain lions, all those kind of terrible things.
They have mammals.
Yeah.
Like, they have terrifying mammals with teeth. We have no mammals that will kill you.
No, right? Well, like humans.
Unless you hit a kangaroo.
That's true.
Really hard.
Or a wombat.
Yeah. That's
cassowaries? They're mammals, right?
Bird.
Is that a mammal?
Cassowaries, it's more like a dinosaur.
Okay.
They can disembowel you with one kick, but
they're basically velociraptors.
you really have to get close to a cassowary.
And there's not that many of them as well.
That's the other thing. Don't you worry, tourists. We are working on destroying our own animals and ecosystem.
And the oceans as well.
Oh, you
Those
don't
sharks
even worry
won't be
about
around
it.
for much longer.
Nope.
Fuck you, coral
The
reef.
penguins are gone too.
Yeah, exactly.
We're losing ice rapidly. It's
How
no good.
much fun. Anyway, we should get back into this very fun little comedy podcast talking about mass graves and extinction. Jesus Christ.
This is what I said. This is why I am so quick to go down a dark path. People always describe me as a dark comedian, and I'm like, I'm not a dark comedian. And then, like, they're like, are you serious? Like, you just did a whole show about, like, suicide.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think just
self-harm
listen to the past 18 minutes of this podcast, and we're pretty much, I should have put dark comedian for your intro, but yeah.
I don't like to describe myself as a dark comedian because it sounds like those, like, TikTok boys who are like, I'm edgy, I'm doing rape jokes, and it's like, you're just not that funny, man.
No, I don't think that's a joke either.
No, that's it. You have genuine, But one of the problems with Edinburgh last year, and to a certain extent, other festivals as well, but like more people already knew my style kind of in Melbourne and Sydney. But in Edinburgh, I was selling really well, but I would have gigs that were still kind of heinous because the picture of me on the poster is like I'm holding up a bag with a goldfish in it, and I look really sweet and non-threatening, and I dress like I'm in Little House on the Prairie. Like I don't look like I'm going to say the things I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And people take like 40 minutes to adjust. And I'm like, guys, I need you to get on board faster.
You just hand out a little flyer when they come in. Be like, hey, here's a photoshopped image of me dressed as, I don't know, an emo or something.
Well,
that's more what to expect.
My poster this year, I haven't put it out yet, but I probably will have by the time this podcast goes out. It's like, I asked a bunch of comedians that, like, more successful comedians if they would give me quotes. And I was like, can you give me quotes that, like, say what kind of comedy I do? Because, like, I've had reviews and they're nice reviews, but they don't, like, describe the content. And I think that is, I think that's doing a disservice to both me and my audience because they don't know what they're coming into. So I asked Ruben Kay and Tom Ballard and Gillian Cosgriff to give me quotes that, like, say what I do.
Embody the style.
Yeah, which has been helpful. And then my poster has, my show is called Oh, the Horrors.
Yes.
Mostly because my producer asked me what next year's show was going to be called in the middle of Edinburgh last year. And I was like,
wonderful.
I was like, horrors. Well, you can't ask things of me right now.
Screaming out in your sleep.
I'm not finished this one. And it's also like a picture of me smiling, but with like bats and daggers and cobwebs around me. I'm like, hopefully this helps. I don't know.
This is for the people that flick through the guide and be like, okay, I understand what this is maybe a little bit more now.
Yeah. And I'm in black and white because it is like a beautiful photo of me with my hands clasped, like grinning like a Victorian schoolgirl. And I'm like, just can you kind of toilet graffiti me a little bit?
Toilet graffiti. You got that S in it as well from the high school? Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
When does that get released, the images?
God, probably today or tomorrow. I should have already done it. I'm just behind.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I feel like I'm always like 2 months behind. I feel like everyone already had their posters last year, and I just, like, as everyone was releasing their posters, worked myself up to sending the email to my graphic designer to say, can you make the poster?
Good reminder when you see everyone else's poster.
Oh, yeah, like, oh, right, got to do that.
Yeah.
But also, the reason they do that before Christmas is so that you can do the whole buy a ticket for your friends for Christmas. Yep. And I'm not the kind of comedian you buy for Christmas. Like,
no, why not? Make a push for this Christmas. Anyone listening, buy somebody in your life a Grace Jarvis ticket.
Yeah, well, please do it. But I'm like, you know, you get a ticket to Eddie Izzard. You're like, oh, sick. You get a ticket to Grace Jarvis. You're like, who is that and why? And like, also the ticket was not that expensive. It's not that big of a gift.
Maybe a Secret Santa.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what'd you call it in this country as well? Like Kris Kringle?
Kris Kringle.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's perfect.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Should back myself.
And I love Eddie Izzard's. I love Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
But you're probably not getting that for a Kris Kringle gift.
No, that's too much.
That's so much, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So, I don't want to say aim lower because that's like a horrible thing to say, but like a little bit cheaper and you get excellent comedy anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think it's more that like big artists like that tour and they just do one night in your town.
And in an arena.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like if you give someone a ticket to me, it's just like, oh, you've decided what I'm doing on that night of this month.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing that night yet.
Yeah.
Whereas Eddie Izzard's in town, you're like, all right,
that's what I'm doing.
Get the babysitter.
Yeah.
We'll have this as a night out.
Yeah. I think David O'Doherty once told me, and it was a really sweet thing for him to say. I think in Edinburgh, not last year, the year before, I wasn't doing a show, but I was just hanging out.
Oh, nice.
I am a comedy nerd first and a comedian second.
I think that's a great way to come into it, honestly, because then you're like, oh, I love this, and you get to like meet people that you've really admired, and you can give them genuine compliments. Whereas like a lot of the time, you're like, oh, hey, Ruben Kay, you're really funny.
Yeah, it's
just like what are you talking about?
We're peers, we're colleagues.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, no, I did that actually, I think to Mark Watson at Melbourne Comedy Festival last year. I just was being introduced to him by somebody else, and I was like, oh, hi, you did a set on the gala when I was in high school, and I loved it so much I like had it memorized. And he was like, wow, when you were in high school? And I was like, oh, sorry.
That's definitely like I mean, scaring him, I presume.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't mean to make you have an existential crisis right now. I'm just saying that was a good joke. But anyway, I'll go.
I always find that stuff terrifying when people are like, yeah, this came out when I was in high school. And I was like, I was 24.
Yeah.
And we're working together. This is crazy. I'm a stunt performer, so there's loads of people that are younger than me, like half my age, that do it. And I'm like hanging out with them and I'm like, I could technically be your dad. But this is cool, right?
It's odd. It's an odd industry in the sense that I have no friends my age.
Yeah, right? It's so weird, huh?
I started comedy when I was 18, so everyone was already older than me.
Yeah.
Except David Woodhead, who we started. He started before me, but we were like gigging together in Brisbane when we first started. We're like 3 days apart, which was a very fun game for us to play. I don't know if you guys look up David Woodhead, a fantastic comedian, great friend of mine, and he's on your radio. But like he's like 6'5", like really.
Is he that tall?
So big, so much bigger than me, and like with this crazy mop of hair.
Big hair,
and we'd be like, guess how old we are? And they'd be like, we? I was like, guess how old we are? We're both 19.
That's so funny. I did not realise he was that young as well, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, God, this is all I do is make people feel bad.
That's good.
It'll eventually some other 18-year-olds will start turning up and I'll be like...
Exactly, right? And they're like, I watched you when I was in high school. And you're like, what the fuck do you mean in high school?
Yeah. I mean, they won't because, comedy doesn't get televised in this country anymore. But...
Yes. On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah, exactly.
I watched you on TikTok.
Yeah.
5 seconds of a video.
It's, it's interesting because I think a lot of comedians, like when you talk about like their favorite comedians or like the reason they got into comedy, it's often Americans and British people.
Yeah, Britain's massive for it, huh?
Whereas I like wasn't allowed to really watch TV, so the only comedy I saw was on the ABC. So all of my heroes were Australians and New Zealanders.
That's so funny.
Which meant that I met them like 2 years into comedy.
I was going to say instantly on your first night. Yeah.
Literally by 2 years I had met all of my heroes, and it's so weird.
That's so funny.
Because I think that's part of why if it is like a really big act, like touring, doing the arenas, it makes, I think they're more used to someone being like, hey, like I really loved your stuff when I was in high school. Whereas like, Felicity Ward, I said, like, you're the reason I started comedy. And she was like, what? Really?
Why?
And I was like, you're really good at it. Back yourself.
Thanks.
But
that's also, I think, an Australian thing as well. Just to be like, what do you mean people know me?
And
what are you talking
Kiwi
about?
Too, yeah.
Yes, that's very true.
My parents are New Zealanders, so like,
cool.
I have it twice.
Yeah, nice, perfect.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, like, it's really sad because Australia doesn't like to get behind Australians for some reason.
It's like, this is I could write a thesis about this. Like, we hate ourselves so much.
It's so bizarre.
And it is like ruining our lives.
Yeah.
Like, we hate everything that we make, so we think we can't make good stuff, so there's no money being put into making Australian stuff. And so people from other countries get to continue to have this idea of us as like cartoonish,
oh my God, Crocodile Dundee. That's all everybody thinks Australia is.
Literally. And even like when there's an Australian in an American TV show, they don't even sound Australian because they make them ham it up because they want them to sound like
to the
Crocodile
point where
Dundee.
they sound like an American doing an Australian accent.
Literally. And it makes me go, you couldn't find an Australian in LA? Like, chuck a rock. You'll hit a Kiwi or an Australian.
Everyone that's doing an American accent in this is Australian or
literally,
Kiwi.
Yeah. And you look it up and you're like, oh, they are Australian. They're just doing an insane accent.
That really threw me. I've had it a few times. I think maybe like Josh Lawson was one of the ones I remember recently in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, yeah?
I was just like, is he Australian? I was like, oh, no, he's Australian. He's just like too Australian.
He's doing it for the Americans.
Two more Australian. Yeah, it's really bizarre.
It's like weird kind of like almost cartoonish. Like, like it's really... It's a strange way to keep like living because it makes, and then we all hate ourselves. So we think Australians, like, there's no good Australian cinema, so then they make no Australian cinema. So then,
or when there is good Australian cinema, they have to go over to America to like promote it.
Literally,
and then when it does well over there, like, oh, by the way, they're Australian.
We're Australian, and for New Zealand as well, which I
exactly right.
So there's actually, I think New Zealand does a little bit better at like making New Zealand stuff, and then Australians shit on that, and I'm like, guys, we have got to get in solidarity, or this is never gonna work.
Competition.
We're siblings. Let's get it together.
I know, right? It's like, just make a push,
and
you don't have to make like not everything made in Australia has to be about somebody that moves away from a small country town that comes back to that small country town with some sort of sordid history, and they have to solve a murder. And I'm not bad-mouthing any of the millions of TV shows and stuff like that.
It's good. It's a good bit.
You can make other stuff as well. Yeah.
You can make comedies even.
You make comedies. Like, there's great horrors that come out of Australia, which nobody talks about in Australia. It's so weird.
The guys who made Saw are Australian, right? And they had no that's why it's all in one room. It's because it was a fucking student film and they had no money.
I know, it's crazy. Or even the Talk to Me guys, the Raka Raka boys.
Oh God,
they had to go over to America to get their film made in Australia.
You constantly, always, that's all the I think Megan, that horror movie with Kiwis.
That's right. Was it? Yeah, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, I think I was in New Zealand for Christmas when it was it had was hit the number 1 at the box office or something.
Wow.
So everyone was being very, very proud.
Oh, of course.
But I was like, get some of this pride over in Australia as well. We got to double up on this. I really think if we don't, Anzac, get it together, they're not going to take us seriously.
Yeah, they just keep coming over here and filming American things here and pretending like it's not in Australia.
NCIS Sydney?
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
I mean, NCIS Sydney, give me a call.
Yeah, no, 100%. I will watch it. I love a crime serial, but just the idea that
it has to come to Sydney, NCIS has to come to Sydney rather than have our own thing here.
Yeah, well, I initially was wait, is it going to... how many naval crimes can be happening in Sydney?
It's just one boat parked at the Sydney Opera House.
We don't have that. Then someone told me that it's actually Americans coming to look into American naval crimes in Sydney. I've talked about this on 3 podcasts at this point. I'm obsessed.
Well, that can be our 6th spin-off podcast. Episode recaps of NCIS Sydney.
Why is this happening? Yeah, it's bizarre.
That's so funny.
It's funny being in the UK because I mostly was hanging out with Scottish people, and then I would run into English people, and they have modern English people still have a real colonial mindset.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
It is really weird. I was like, oh, I thought this was I thought you would have some self-awareness on this. No, you still think it's okay to make the Australia's not a real country, New Zealand's not a real country joke. I'm like, no, I'm not laughing at that joke anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm from 2 very bizarre. Real countries with very real cultures, and you can shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's xenophobic and weird when you do it, and
they've
it is
just spread out and taken over all the other cultures.
Yeah,
of the
literally, it's pathetic and spineless when we do it to ourselves. I'm not doing ooh, I'm from a fake. I'm not doing it. It's just it's boring.
Yeah, right.
It's
and also just what is this achieving?
Well, why? Yeah, why? Yeah. It's the same as even Australians do it, going to Edinburgh and being there are no vegetables in Scotland. And I'm first of all, this was a bit that was hack in the 80s. You are 60 years behind on this joke.
Yes.
And also, go in the shops. I've eaten, there are vegetables here. They're in the supermarkets. I'm eating them.
Nobody buys them, but there's vegetables.
There are vegetables. Yeah. And this is a festival. I get that you're you can feel weird and bad about eating, fried food from a van, however you feel, but don't blame the country of Scotland. This isn't how people eat all the time.
I mean, some people definitely do eat like that all the time.
Sure, but
But yeah, it's because you're living here.
They do here too.
Yeah, that's very true. It's because you're living off a crepe van doesn't mean that there's not good food.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because that van's parked out the front of your apartment.
Crepe vans, they're not native to Scotland. No. They're an introduced species.
They are, and they're really only there for the festival as well.
Yeah, truly. It's just because you guys only come to Scotland for the festival, you think this is what it is. I feel bad when I refer to the Edinburgh Fringe as Edinburgh, and I'm I know the city exists the rest of the year.
No, we just go into hibernation, just waiting for that fringe every single year so we can pounce.
Those poor locals who are we're furiously trying to walk to work.
Oh, I did hate that personally. And I love the fringe. I love the fringe, but just trying to get around some places during the fringe is a fucking nightmare.
I hated it on your behalf. Yes. I was this sucks.
And I've been on both sides. I've been trying to flyer people when they're trying to walk to work and they do not give a shit. But I'm I need to sell tickets. Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is my job as well. I know that's insane.
Yes. I know you say it's not a real job. And
it isn't.
A lot of the time I think it's not.
Yeah.
But please come and see my play.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My silly little Edinburgh Fringe play.
Yeah. I'm in a basement that
Yeah, right.
You might get scarlet fever from the walls.
I'm in a basement, or I'm in somebody's front room, or I'm in a shed.
Yeah.
But either way, please come.
I was in a woolen tent.
Oh,
That was
really?
just like boiling hot. And
The irony. The one time in Scotland where it's actually hot and everyone's stuck in tents.
and basements, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, like, I think for the tattoo or something, they'd have like military flyovers.
Yep.
And I would be doing my show and it would just be like planes over the tent, and I'd be like, oh no.
Is this the end of the world?
Is it happening? I was like, I signed a piece of paper that said I don't get my venue deposit back if a war breaks out. So now I'm just like, is this it?
A war breaks out in Scotland as well.
I know. I was like, truly, they said the word war so many times in that contract. I was
Wow.
like, do you guys know something I don't know? What's
Like,
going to happen?
Just sign it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you put this in every year. Don't check last year.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, just
I think it's just because like they had to give everyone their money back because of COVID, and
Yeah.
now they're like, that will never happen again.
Plague, pestilence, famine, and war. They're the
Literally.
four big ones that you will not get a refund
I
for.
love when the word act of God is in a legal contract,
Yeah.
but they got to put it in.
I'm like, what does that entail as well? I'm like, what if like a piece of this church falls down on me? Is that an act of God? Like,
Could
yeah.
be.
What have I done, God? I'm sorry. Can I not at least get a venue refund?
Hot Fuzz reference.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that guy didn't
I'm
get
contributing.
his money back. Yeah.
to the artistic nature of the town.
Yeah, exactly right. This church needs my money.
Yeah.
All Christianity needs money.
Oh,
so,
that's
go out,
them.
donate, guys.
Guys,
They're
give what you
doing
can.
Well,
Tithe.
anyway, we'll get into the podcast now.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you came with any pre-prepared stories. I find with a lot of comedians as well, they come in with the sort of classic groupings of stories. So and I don't want to spoil any of the ones that you might have coming up, but it's auditions, especially for TV commercials.
Yes.
The corporate gigs. I don't know whether you've had too many corporate gigs in the past.
Fortunately, I'm not really the gal they call up for corporate gigs.
Look, that's
for
good
the
and
reasons
bad.
of everything I've said up until now.
No, you could go and do an Edgar Allan Poe
yes.
publishing house.
I did.
I'm sure there's loads of them around.
I did my show at New Zealand Comedy Festival last year, and I sold so badly, which was really embarrassing because I was like, this is to sell so much better in Edinburgh than in the country where all of my relatives live.
Oh,
So embarrassing.
were they there? Can I ask? You
Some
don't
of
have to
them.
name and shame, but okay, some of them.
I was
Okay.
staying with my auntie and she didn't come. I was like, guys, but she was just.
She's like, no, I get this for free.
Yeah. I don't want any more of this. No,
Yeah.
thank you. No, all my mum's cousins came
Aw.
and sat so far behind the lights that I thought there was no one in the room. I thought
wow.
I thought the tech was like just making me do the show to him because I was like the whole front.
The tech held the power.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you're doing this show. I'm getting paid one way or
He
another.
announced me and I came out and I was like, there's no one in here. And then they were like
The biggest joke of it all.
at the back of the room.
So
and
they
I
were the
was like,
only ones in, and they didn't sit anywhere near the front. Oh my god!
I think they were scared. This is the problem.
scared of crowd work.
TikTok has ruined comedy audiences.
fair enough.
Because they all think that because people who haven't seen comedy before, their first interaction with it is from like TikTok.
Yes.
And because comedians don't want to burn their material online or they don't have any material, they just post crowd work.
Yes.
So now people think that all comedy is crowd work.
You
So
just
they
did it.
are terrified,
Yep.
which they always were, but now it is so bad. And I
Yeah.
have to like get my front of house people to be like, she doesn't talk to you. Like,
Don't worry, you're not going to get bullied.
I
in
have
this
a
show.
meticulous hour to get through.
Yeah.
It is honestly, it's 62 minutes. So I actually really can't.
So there's not even like a pause in this.
I can't actually, I really
Joke
cannot
next
talk
joke.
to you. Do not worry about it. But
That's so funny.
They are terrified. Yeah.
Did they enjoy it at least from the
Oh yeah, they
nosebleed
did for
section?
sure. And she, one of my mum's cousin who works in TV in New Zealand.
Oh, cool.
Was like, you should get in touch with this girl who does like touring to schools. And I was
Oh.
like, why? After watching that, did you think I was school appropriate?
To do your material in schools? Is that what
No, but she
wanted?
was like, it's like a suicide prevention charity.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, you'd be really good to talk to
Yep.
depressed kids because you were a depressed kid.
Yeah.
And I was like,
relatable rather than some weird, like, 40-year-olds being like, you know what's not cool? Suicide.
yeah. the when I was in school, we had like a cyberbullying talk every
Oh,
year.
okay.
And it was It was so funny because every year the same girls would like delete their social media and I would be like, what about that speech made you feel like you had to do something? Because I wasn't doing any of the things they were saying.
Yeah.
Feels like maybe you were. But it was like this ad. It was like not an ad. It was like one of those American like PSA videos of like this kid who's getting cyberbullied at school and then cyberbullied by kids at school and then they kill themselves and it's what's the song? Still Fighting It by Ben Hertz.
Oh, okay. I don't think I know that one.
Everybody knows it hurts to grow up. Now, every time I hear that song, I'm like, that kid that got cyberbullied to death.
Jesus Christ, that really tainted that song.
Yeah, so I don't know that was the best approach either, but I'm not sure me being like, hey, I used to be a self-harmer and I still think about it a lot.
Here's this song from Ben Hertz.
Just doing covers.
Yeah, right. Like, I really want my musician career to take off.
Phoebe Bridgers playlist in the background, like, kids,
get ready to cry.
I don't really have a leg to stand on telling you not to do this stuff because I did all of it.
Yeah, that's a funny one as well because you speak from personal experience, but then you're also like, I mean, I was there with you guys.
Yeah,
so
it's weird to be like, it gets better, but also in some ways worse. And you don't want to say that.
No, exactly. And a lot of the time it is because of school. So you're like, it gets better after school.
After school.
And you're like,
so little of this matters.
Just now.
Yeah, well, literally. People being like, don't worry. And also I'm autistic. So at the time I was like, I actually could not picture what my life would look like without the structure that I was used to. Like I was
so funny.
Just depressed as well, but like I actually just didn't have a vision of it. So like it's not that I didn't know it was going to change and that it would be better. I just truly couldn't fathom it. Like when I finished high school, they told me I had to make an email address because my school email would stop working.
Yeah,
because I didn't understand what an email was for if it wasn't for school, because that was my only understanding of an email. And now looking back, it sounds like I'm insane, but I'm like I just really had only a very narrow understanding of specific parts of the world. And so I made my email address and I put my like school ID number in front of my name because I didn't understand what an email address needed to be.
Yeah.
And now I give it to people and they're like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, I know. It
does look like a spam email address.
I didn't grasp what it was supposed to look like.
And then you're fucking stuck with it.
I'm stuck with it. It's so hard to, I guess I could make a second one, but then
you need to change everything over.
Forward it over. Yeah. It's,
and I was going to say it's a nice, good story. It's an interesting story.
It's not really a good story, but it does. When I tell people why, they go, I guess that explains it.
Yeah.
We still think that's crazy, but it does.
Well, at least there's an explanation for why it's crazy now.
But it is part of why, like, it gets better didn't ever work on me. Because I was like, I actually can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
And that's part of why teenagers kill themselves.
Yeah,
they
for
have
sure.
Very limited future.
Also, you're like, oh, it gets better. You're like, oh, great, maybe it'll get better. But, like, just now fucking sucks.
Yeah. And also, I'm 25. It's not, like, it's better.
Yeah.
Certainly. But it's still pretty bad.
Yeah, well, you don't want to tell that to kids, though. In all fairness, you're like, it might get better. It probably will, but it's also fucking rough.
It's wild out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure my friends who have, like, medical degrees and law degrees by now are probably feeling like 25 is not as bad as I am, but
again, I don't know, maybe they fucking hate it.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
They spent the past 8 years studying for something they don't want to work in.
Who knows, man? But at least I'm like, I've talked to enough people in their 40s that I know that the tales of my 20s will at some point be like a fun anecdote looked on with nostalgia. But currently, it feels like I'm in a series of emotional and real estate-based sore traps.
Yeah. But also then you're like, wait, is that the best part? Is this just now? It's like, fuck, I get my 30s and 40s. What do you mean that it's better back in your 20s?
God, luckily no one ever said like high school are the best years of your lives to me. Because
that's such an American, like,
American
Riverdale
movies,
thing.
Yeah, American movies would say that and I'd be like, are you insane?
Yeah.
And my dad, like, went to a boys' school in Gisborne, New Zealand, and got the shit kicked out of him every day and was like, high school is not the best years of your life.
No, I don't know anyone, genuinely anyone that I like talk to that says high school is the best years of your life. Because I'm like, you fucking insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not that.
It's why
maybe they're passable.
Yeah, I want to not, like, talk about school on stage anymore because I feel like I've done, like, this will be my third hour. And my first show was a lot of, like, school, suicidal bullying, was also getting my appendix out. So it was mostly that, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then second one was like kind of that point, but done better, where I was like, school was horrific, homophobia, self-harm, suicide, autism. That was mostly what last year's show was about, was being like, oh, you were autistic the whole time. That explains a lot.
This all makes sense in hindsight. Yes. You wish you knew that then.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same boat. And I'm like, fuck, man, that would have been nice to know 20 years ago.
So good to know, man. But then it's like, would it have been? Because it's not like autistic people were getting treated well.
Well, no. And also like back then as well, you're like, yeah, all right. What of it?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Now you just know you're weird. Like,
yeah.
I didn't need a word to identify the fact that everybody thought I was strange.
Yeah.
Now that I have the word, it makes a lot of sense. But at the time, I just was like, wow, you guys just... I used to tell teachers that I felt like a cartoon character in a movie about real people, and nobody took that as a red flag.
Every teacher's just like, fuck, I'm just trying to get through this day. I do
I
not know
am
how to
not being
take that.
paid well enough for this.
I mean, great, but like, oh, Jesus, I'm sorry.
also having a terrible time. I studied education.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Poor teachers, man.
Yeah. And
but it's, I find it's also nice to understand you're like, this is why I'm like this.
Truly.
Right, okay.
It was a real, like, ray of light over a lot of stuff where I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But also... you can't really undo it. So I'm trying to stop talking about school on stage. But every time, and Scouts, I was in the Scouts for 10 years. So I have a lot of material about having a horrific time at high school and being in the Scouts and being raised by veterans. And I'm trying not to, but also every time I try and write something, I think of new stuff.
It just keeps coming back to you.
It keeps coming back. And I'm like, I can't keep being this... the school comedian.
The school comedian that was in Scouts.
Yeah. But it's, it's a lot of material.
Well, I mean, like 10 years in Scouts, how's that not a lot of material?
That's what I mean. It's actually insane. And the more I talk to people about it, the more, like, because even I was able to sort of identify that it was weird because not everybody was in the Scouts.
Yeah.
But then talking about the Scouts, you realize how... it's a cult. Like, it's absolutely a cult.
I was just about to say, I was also in the Scouts as well. And I was like, you talk about it to people afterwards and like, what do you mean?
What are you in? What?
Yeah.
It's so weird. And it was like, and my dad was in the military, so he like didn't mind the like military element, but there was also like a weird God element. And like, my dad put me in the Scouts because he says the Scouts kept him out of jail.
Okay.
But he joined when he was 16 and his dad had just died.
Yeah, right.
He put me in when I was 6.
Oh, wow.
Like, I didn't have any criminal tendencies.
In all fairness, so Grace, did you ever end up in jail?
No, I did not.
Nope, there you go.
Yeah,
So,
system
point
works.
proven.
I had a lot of badges.
Yes, nice.
Yeah, the one thing about autism is that we're all in the Scouts.
Yeah.
And we're really good at badges.
Yeah. We get hyper-fixated on things and love collecting things.
I got my Scout medallion. When I was 14, I spent my Easter long weekend, like school holidays, canoeing down a river for 4 days.
Yeah, wow.
And no one made me do that.
No.
Like, no one forced me to do that. Other kids were just hanging out at home, playing video games, watching...
having fun.
Just like I was canoeing down a river that people were actively pulling water out of. Eventually I ran out of river and had to call my dad to come and put us in a different piece of river. Like,
oh, wow.
Truly insane.
Yeah.
Also, I couldn't get enough teenagers to come with me. I had to have a certain number and I couldn't get enough of them because, well, of course.
That's the really main thing in Scouts is that some of the badges you had to do in groups and you're like, I don't know anyone else in Scouts.
I don't have friends. That's why I'm doing this.
That's why I'm in Scouts.
And we took an adult woman who was a leader at a different troop with us.
Yeah, right.
And she was supposed to pretend that she didn't know anything and pretend she wasn't an adult. Oh. Adults are actually not capable of doing that, I don't think.
Well, also, when you've got children in a boat, I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I'll probably look after them.
You take some... And I didn't need looking after. Like, I knew how to do everything, but she was really bringing the vibe down at the campfire because she would, like we were burning newspaper and there was like a story about abortion and she started like lecturing us about how abortion is a sin and I'm like, dude, we are 14 on a canoe hike. Like we're not having sex.
Also, like, and shout out to every Scout leader, but I'm like, it takes a real specific kind of person to be a Scout leader.
Some of the worst people in the world. It's
just very odd
people who didn't age right. You know?
Age out of Scouts.
They didn't.
You should age out of Scouts.
You gotta. I stopped when I was 16. The people who keep going till 25, you don't want. But
you're 25 hanging out with 13-year-olds as well.
Why?
Which is such a difference. Like that 12 years from 12 or 13 to 25 is like... night and day. You're different humans at that point.
Truly.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess rovers don't technically hang out with scouts, but they do they're in the same organization. It's weird.
And they do those big camps that they all get together at as well.
Jamboree.
Jamboree, that was it.
I went to 2.
I went to 1. Yeah.
You're not supposed to go to 2. It's like the Olympics. It's every 4 years. You're supposed to have aged out, but I somehow was in the bracket where I went to 2. It's too many jamborees.
1 jamboree is too many
It's
jamborees.
too many.
It's the weirdest thing as well.
It's not right.
Yeah.
It's not how you're supposed to hang out.
No, it's not. And you're all just in a field. And I don't know about with the one you went to. The one I went to was in the middle of fucking nowhere. And you just get dropped off with, like, scout leaders who are
Strange
responsible
adults.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're all just like, it's a million kids just in a field. And you're like, there's nothing to do here.
Well, ours were pretty snazzy. Like, the first one I went to was in Sydney, which was pretty cool because I was from the country. So I was like, we just got to run around, the big city.
Oh, you got to go to a city.
Ruin everyone's wedding photos by canoeing in the background.
Oh my God.
And the second one was in Maryborough, Queensland, which is not really a city.
That's not Sydney.
It is it is famous for the author of Mary Poppins being born there.
Oh, that's nice.
And her immediately leaving, because Mary Poppins is set in London. She lived in London for the rest of her life.
I didn't know she was born in Australia.
No, well, no one does, because why would she be? But there's a statue of Mary Poppins. Like, there's a Mary
lovely.
Poppins museum. Some of their green walking lights are Mary Poppins. It's
wow.
she was here for 6 months.
Yeah,
at the beginning of her life.
What else did they have to claim there?
Well, exactly. So it was a lot of,
we
wandering around the bush and rock climbing and whatnot.
We were just outside of a very, very small town in Scotland, like literally a field. So there was nothing to do. If you wanted to go into the small town, so they had a tuck shop in the town, you had to wear your kilt. Because we all had to wear kilts all the time.
Wait, you had a kilt as part of your scout uniform?
Yeah, the official scout, because you had your regular one, but then like if you had to dress up for special occasions, you had to wear a kilt.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had to wear our kilts into the town, which was always just like, oh great, we're in the scouts. Do you want us to get bullied more?
This is what I mean.
Little
Why?
children wearing kilts into the town.
Our formal uniform was like tan trousers or tan calf length skirt, which I never bought because none of my troops were ever like that formal. Like on Anzac Day, we'd march in jeans and just have the uniform and the scarf. But yeah, to make it even more obvious and like to make us all dress like we're weird. It's like
it's just got all these little kids wandering around, or like teenagers wandering around your town as well in kilts.
It's like a mirror image of like Hitler Youth. Like it's real weird.
And it's just like, at that age, you don't want to wear a kilt because it's embarrassing and it's different. Like as an adult, I love it now. But you're like, as a kid, you're like, no, I just want to blend in. Like you have to wear your entire scout top and your kilt in. You're like, no wonder everybody bullied scouts.
I'm definitely not getting beat up while I try and eat a Chico roll with this outfit.
Exactly, right? In a town,
whatever the Scottish equivalent of a Chico roll is.
Deep fried.
Mars bar.
Deep fried sausage. That'd probably be the closest thing.
Battered sausage,
But you're just like, why are you belittling me?
Why would we do
I already have no self-confidence. I'm in the scouts.
It's weird how, like, stuff like that when you're a kid is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Whereas like now, like while I was in Edinburgh last year, my friend Lou Wall, who's a comedian.
Fantastic. Lou's been on the podcast.
Oh, great. Yeah, they're the best. I had like I was crying about something and they were like, let's do like a treat yourself. Like, let's go and get pedicures,
nice.
It'd be nice. And it was weird. It was not a pedicure. It was like a man painting my toenails while I put them on a pedal bin. And he was yelling at us about how our nails were too short. And I was like, this is the least.
I'm sorry, where did you get this done?
Somewhere over in the new town, this like man was
like a salon or just in the street?
A salon, but I was like, it didn't have like, I thought we were going to put our feet in baths or,
the nice big reclining seats
and
stuff like that.
It was not relaxing at all.
Wow, that sounds
wild.
Terrifying.
Yeah, but on the way over there was this little boy in his kilt playing his bagpipes, and I like put a $5 in his case, and Lou was like, God, I was just about to say how annoying that is. Look at you. I'm like, he's protecting his cultural heritage. He's doing a great job.
This kid's been thrown out in the street. Like, presumably he didn't. Oh, maybe he did. Maybe he did want to go out busking, but you're like, that's mostly the parents.
Yeah,
there.
I'm sure someone is like, we need to station patriotic stuff on every corner.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing great.
And also, you're like, Yeah, you think he's doing, like, he's not getting bullied at school? I think
Yeah, he absolutely
the least
is.
I can give him is £5.
Well, exactly. And I like the bagpipes. I think he's doing great. It looks hard.
Yeah.
Well done.
See, I love the bagpipes, just not in Australia. No one here can play them well. And every weird person that went to a private school plays them here, and they were like, oh, I play the bagpipes, and then continue to talk to me about them, and I'm like,
no.
Cool.
I went to a Scottish Presbyterian school in country Queensland, so our uniform was tartan kilts.
Yeah.
And we have the bagpipes on like every special occasion, and it would be like, I like this, but I'm also having a terrible time, so it's kind of a weird combo.
Also, kilts aren't made for Australian climates.
Well, to be fair, Toowoomba is like on top of a mountain, so it is like freezing.
Oh, okay.
So they had a purpose, but yeah, they did keep us warm, but you know, it was weird.
Yeah, weird.
It was weird to be a Scottish Presbyterian school in Australia. It's like, you can just have a tartan uniform and not have to bring this up. Like,
also Presbyterian as well, like, well, I mean, Scotland's got a few different, it's mostly just different variations of Christianity, but you're like, yeah, most of them are like...
Presbyterians are the least fun. They're like, we don't believe
really
in raffles because it's gambling. It's like, what?
And they're always the ones that are like, no, you sit down in silence. Yeah, and you're just like, just listen to God. Like, what are you talking about, man?
At least a fun song.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason I'm not religious, I'm an atheist. My parents raised, like, they just didn't give me any inkling of religion except for sending me to a couple of religious schools, but they were very supportive of my criticism of religion, translation, yelling at priests. But I went to those schools and didn't develop religion. But like, the only reason I would go to a church now is to sing in a group setting. Like, I was in choirs my whole life. Like, I like that part. Every other part of religion is not good, but the singing with lots of other people is actually very enjoyable.
Yeah, look, Christianity, you've done some pretty fuck things.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. But the songs are nice.
Songs are nice, but the Presbyterian version of like as dull, like as silent and dull as possible. It's like, oh, you're not
monotone.
You're not even giving me any of the good parts of this, man.
No, right? You don't get any of the fun Christianity parts with those songs.
At least like tell me a tale about the devil or something, you know?
Yeah, right? Like the Catholics.
Yeah.
They love telling you about the devil.
Say what you will about the Catholics. They put on a show.
They do, don't they?
They have the prettiest churches. They have the outfits, you know. They have real tales of woe.
And smite and all that kind of stuff. Fire and brimstone and all that.
If you're going to do religion, do it properly. Get some smiting involved.
Yeah, I want to hear about all the like hocus pocus.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, yeah, like the devil coming up and all this other magic and stuff.
I believe in the Greek gods more than I do the Christian ones.
They're so much more fucking interesting.
They've got so much more on. Yeah.
And the Roman gods as well. They're fucking sick, man.
They were involved. Yeah. You know? They're not good.
They were coming down.
They're not good people.
A lot of the stuff they did wasn't okay.
Not good, no. But, you know, they're coming down
cool.
here.
Yeah, they dressed way more interestingly.
100%. Disguising themselves as swans and whatnot. Yeah. That's how you get a religion going.
And big, like, armor and shit.
Yes.
Yeah. What did Jesus wear? Robes?
Lightning bolts.
Yeah, right? Jesus didn't lightning bolt anyone.
No.
Yeah.
And he should have.
He should have. So many people needed lightning bolts back in those days.
It's also funny because, like, Christianity is actually kind of metal. Like, so much of it is like, Jesus was like a political rebel.
Yeah.
Like, he was actively criticizing the government. The government assassinated him because they didn't like what he was saying. Like, he is like an anarchist. Yeah. Like, he does, like, the thing of like turn the other cheek. It doesn't mean like, you know, don't engage with the conflict. It means if the Roman slaps you with the back of his hand, turn the other cheek so he has to slap you with the front of his hand like an equal. It's like...
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, you could really get people involved if you remembered what parts of this is cool.
Maybe you could do one of these tours in school. You're like, you know what, guys? The Bible's actually cool.
Jesus was...
Jesus was hip and anti-establishment. Not saying you should do that, though.
No, definitely not. We would like you to be very pro-establishment because we have completely retranslated what we think he meant.
Yes, and also, like, a lot of this stuff, I don't think Jesus was white. Whatever. Anyway, sorry, we should get back on track with some stories.
Sorry, I keep
No, this is
distracting.
very good. Hello. Now, before we get into our next story, I've got to tell you the main reason why I'm able to fumble through my awkward and embarrassing day-to-day occasions. Coffee. Now, fortunately for myself and all of the listeners, we have paired with one of Melbourne's best coffee companies, Coffee on Q, a coffee worth talking about. Get ready to caffeinate yourself through your next awkward moment with Coffee on Q's signature Elevate blend. Crafted in-house with precision, each sip delivers delightful flavour notes of strawberry, chocolate and marmalade. And here's the deal you won't want to miss. Coffee on Q is offering an exclusive discount to all our listeners. Simply use the code WBFT15 at checkout to enjoy an incredible 15% off all coffee purchases. That's right, WBFT15 is a key to savings, making sure you're properly awake to remember your next big embarrassing moment. Now, this code is valid for all coffee products, so make sure you stock up on your favourites. And the best part? You can use the code WBFT15 as many times as you like. So don't miss out on the opportunity to enjoy the finest coffee Melbourne has to offer. Simply visit Coffee on Q, and that's QCUE.com.au, and enter the discount code WBFT15 at checkout to unlock 15% off your next coffee order. That's WBFT15 at coffeeonq.com.au. Coffee on Q, where awkward moments pair perfectly with your daily cup. So I was wondering, did you come in with any pre-prepared stories, or is there anything that really particularly sticks out in your mind? We were going over with any of the TV commercial auditions is always a big one as well. You know, you were saying maybe not so much corporate comedian.
No.
Or like doing corporate gigs, I should say, opposed to working for like Shell or something like that.
I mean, book me for. I'll
hey,
do
Shell,
any,
if you're listening,
do any gig. Truly, if you're paying me, I will.
Those prices of those things sometimes.
Oh, I know.
I'm not a stand-up. I'd do an hour.
I will bomb to 40 people eating dinner for any amount of money.
I have disgraced myself for so little money. I would happily do it for a corporate fee.
100%. Yeah, I have. Yeah, very, very few limitations on that. I'm not. I won't change my set.
No.
I won't be like, "Hey, oil's great." I'll do the same set and I'll bomb, but I will do it.
But I'll be there.
I haven't done that many auditions. Again, I would like to.
Yeah.
But I did one.
Casting agents out there listening.
Yeah, someone sent
get in touch.
Someone sent me an email. Which again, I'm like, how did you even find my email? It's a stupid email.
They just typed in a loads of numbers.
Yeah. They emailed me and they kind of made it sound like they wanted me for the job. Like they were like, we're doing this music video for this song and we need a comedian to play this role. Cool. And I was like, oh, cool. Sick. And they were like, we're filming on this day. Are you available? And it kind of sounded like, turn up at this point and do this. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, sick. I'd be keen. And then they were like, great. Can you do a tape? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's not really, don't have the gig, but
it's
sure.
Not an offer. It's maybe, a cheeky little self-tape request.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll do a tape, whatever. And the tape was like they wanted me to dance to the song. Oh, my God. Just, like, very, like, badly. Like, dance, like, I was supposed to be like like someone in a canteen or something, Okay. Like, it was one of those music videos where everyone's doing their jobs and then they get hit by the power of music. And then I assume, I haven't seen it, but I think that's the vibe. So then I was like, my house is so old. Yep. And I love my house, but like the one thing it doesn't have is natural light. So I'm out in the backyard under my fucking clothesline, just playing the song off of my phone and like filming it on an iPad and just like dancing around. It starts raining at one point. I'm like, I guess this is like a flash dance thing now.
This is just cool and moody, maybe?
Coolly dancing, and I send it in and then like nothing, just no response. And then the day before the thing, I was like, hey, Any word? Because, like, you maybe put this in my calendar. Like, am I doing this job or not?
What's my call time?
Yeah. They were like, oh, sorry, we because they said we want a comedian for this role. Yep. And I was like, I doubt that you do. I honestly, almost every time someone says we want a comedian for this role, they end up with a model. And they were like, we want a comedian for this role. And I was like, I don't know that you do. And then they were like, oh, sorry, we went in a different direction. We had this model. And I was like, of course.
I mean, so many things. For one, never ask anyone to dance on camera.
It's wild.
The worst. I've had to do it for a few auditions as well. And they're like, choose the song you like to dance to the most. And I'm like, guess what? I don't
do that.
And then all it is just like a weird, like what you were saying, playing it tinnily off your phone and dancing. We're currently recording in my home setup for the podcast studio, but it's not the biggest space in the world. So trying to dance in here, you're like, I feel like such a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
And I never get it.
Nope.
And then it's just somebody's
and then they
video.
just have that footage somewhere.
Forever. Yeah.
Devastating.
Like what you were saying before with your interview when you were 19. You're like, that's just out there somewhere.
There's so much stuff. Oh God, I just remembered.
Yes, this is what the podcast is about, bringing up repressed memories.
When I was like 19 or 20, I was like just starting comedy, and this like weird, I think it actually might be the production studio that now does Bluey, but I'm not sure.
Oh.
They were doing this like trial of like a podcast series about like sex education, but they wanted it to be like like conversational and funny and not like, you know, scientists talking about it. So
this is where it goes. And
So they got like comedians in to talk about like our early sexual experiences and like what was probably not great about it or whatever. But like,
I mean, none of them are great.
None of them are great. But I was 19. I was practically still a virgin. Like
You're like, so this happened last night?
Yeah, like truly, it was very fresh stuff for most of us. And I was like, at the time, I forgot that we were recording it because it was probably like one of the first podcasts I ever, might have been the only, like the first podcast I'd ever done. And I was like we were in like a storage closet in like a production studio.
Okay.
And it was a bunch of people who, were my friends at the time, but a lot of us are not that close anymore because we all just moved to
different... Because of this podcast?
It broke up the band.
No,
just because we moved to different cities
yeah.
and like some of us don't do comedy anymore and some of us like, you know, relationships. And they were all at least 10 years older than me at the time. Anyway.
Wow, okay.
So like eventually people just kind of move faster than you're going. And we were just in this. I'm actually terrified of this ever coming out. Like, I really, really hope it is deleted.
So you actually did an episode of it?
We recorded for like 2 hours.
Holy shit.
And none of it is educational or useful. Absolutely none of it should be shown to children in any way.
That's what you get when you get comedians talking about sexual experiences. Like, none of it's going to be like...
Because if that wasn't the brief...
Yeah.
If it was just like a podcast like this of like embarrassing sexual experiences, then we probably could have done a better job. But it was the fact that we were trying to speak from a place of authority. Because we sort of had an idea that there was an audience of a certain age, but then we would forget because we're comedians and we're just riffing with each other, and then we would backtrack on ourselves and be like, but that's not. And it's like,
was it meant to be educational as well?
I am very unclear. I don't know. I don't think it was meant to be educational. I think it was supposed to be like
destigmatizing.
Yeah, or like we've all done bad stuff and like consent's important type of stuff. Like not bad stuff, but like we've all had embarrassing,
awkward,
situations, or like, to be honest, I think there were 2 of us that were women in the room, and we were doing a lot of like, hey, we've all had stuff where we've been sort of assaulted, like, like this. And I don't think those men would even think that they had assaulted us because of the fact that we're not having this conversation enough. Yeah. And so, like, it's not like it's an unnecessary conversation. It's just that it should not have been us. Yeah,
and the target audience is interesting, like, what they were aiming for what it sounded like.
High schools, I think it was supposed to be sort of like the Ben Hurt's It Hurts to Grow Up.
Oh, okay, the PSA kind of a thing.
Is that his name? Ben Hurt? I'm probably saying that wrong entirely. It's definitely called Still Fighting It.
Okay.
Ben Folds 5, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's a person I've heard of.
Yes.
But I have heard of very few people, so.
Yes. It's something about brown corduroy pants. Anyway.
Okay.
This song is stuck in my head from a very specific cyberbullying ad.
Yeah. You weren't looking up who sang it.
No. Yeah. I was like, I've only as an adult known that song. For my adolescence, it was the song that was on the video of the girl who kills herself.
Yeah. Very specific knowledge of that song.
Yeah, it's like because my parents are Kiwis, I have like like quotes from drink driving ads that were on TV when they were kids that I never saw on TV, but are like actively New Zealand cultural references that people would understand. Yeah, that's
like, so funny. Those New Zealand drink driving ads go hard as well.
They're really good at them.
Yeah.
And they've been really good at them for a long time. Like, they do the funny ones now, but the ones that my my parents were watching were serious ones where there was like
fucking harrowing.
Yeah, they're like, don't say sorry to me, say sorry to his kids. Like that's the reference. I think it was supposed to be something along the lines of that, like cyberbullying, or like, you know, you're an actor. Have you ever done those things where like actors come to school and do Romeo and Juliet shortly?
Few friends. I have. I don't want to name and shame anyone. Previous friends for the podcast that still do that.
Yes. No, and it's a good. It's it's an important role.
Like, make your money where you can.
Yeah, and kids love to not be in a classroom for an afternoon.
I don't know if they love listening to Romeo and Juliet so much. Really. I'll be honest with you, though.
I would always go to the bathroom when we got to questions and answers because I had just such powerful secondhand embarrassment of the people around me asking questions like, are you guys together in real life? Like, I was like, I want to die. But I think that was supposed to be something along the lines of something like that. And it was a complete failure, obviously. But I hope that means that they deleted it. Because if it is somewhere, I am terrified.
Well, anyone from that production company that's listening, call in and let us know. You can DM myself or Grace.
We were truly in a closet. Like, I think I was sitting on a bucket. Like,
wow. In like a production office as well. You'd think that they'd have something.
Well, it was like a Brisbane. I don't think it was.
Oh, you didn't say no more.
Yeah. They didn't have a lot of room. I don't think they had a lot of, As I say, the arts in Australia, even the arts that have funding, it's not a lot of funding.
Yeah, that's actually fair enough.
Yeah.
I now understand a little bit more, yeah.
And also, we're kind of in the like renaissance of podcasts at the moment.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't even know kind of what a podcast was.
They're a little bit more obscure, like especially like recording one wasn't really like understood.
Yeah, I listened. Yeah. No, I did know what it was because I listened to a couple that were kind of like early comedy podcasts. Yeah. But I don't think people really grasped how much of entertainment would become audio based, which I'm glad that it has, but annoyingly now it's also video based because
I know,
you got to post clips from your podcast.
What? Because like people have asked if I film this, and I'm like, I don't see the return for it just now. Maybe later if it's in like a proper studio and it. But I'm like, who sits and watches a full podcast? Honestly?
This is what I mean.
Understand that you clip it up.
I think
TikTok
it must just be for the clips.
Yeah. Just in case something funny happens in that hour and a half,
I guess.
But I'm like, I just can't, man.
Sometimes I watch the video if I'm listening to the audio and they mumble over something, and I watch the video to see what they said because I need to look at their lips.
Yeah, right.
But that's like more of a audio processing issue than
right. I've looked up one podcast once for its video content because somebody bumped their head during the recording, and I wanted to see it, and I was like, oh, and I really enjoy that podcast as well. But I was like, that's the only time I've ever watched the video of it. And they put up every week an hour-long video podcast.
I think it's mostly just for the clip on Instagram to be like,
isn't it?
This is a funny episode, which I get it. But also, I can't even... I know I'm supposed to be like clipping up videos of me doing stand-up, and I can't.
I know. It's so much work.
It's terrifying. And also, I hate filming sets because I'm like, well, if I film it, I'm gonna bomb. And the way that people get around that is just by filming every set. But now you're the fucking guy that comes to every set and films like every gig and films it. And it's like, there are two people in this audience. Like, why?
You can just copy and paste them, right?
Sometimes they post it and I'm like, you're not doing well. Like, I was in the room. You weren't doing well at the time. It's not better on video.
That should be the new thing, is people exclusively like putting up when they bomb.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is at the moment. It's weird how it works.
A little bit of, is it Schadenfreude or whatever people call that thing? Like, you get entertainment out of watching people do bad things.
God, I cannot. That's like, I couldn't.
I can't either.
I had to go to the bathroom to avoid questions and answers from other children. I can't.
In high school as well, when like that, those people up on stage, they know what they're doing.
They're adults, so I can't. Absolutely. I hate like heckler destroys comedian. I'm like,
God, I hate that as well.
Why would you post this?
Yeah, and you're encouraging people to talk at shows.
That's the other thing, is the crowd work thing is like, you're either terrifying them so they sit so far at the back you can't see them, or they think they're involved now.
Those people very happy to sit at the front.
Yes.
Do you find people are trying to interact with you a lot more now?
Not me personally, because
they're too scared of you.
Yeah, they're terrified of me.
Oh, she seems really nice.
My
like
peasant blouse.
Yeah, and then starts instantly talking about some of the darkest material.
Yeah, because I don't really do. Like, I should maybe try. It is like its own skill. That was what was funny to me about the Matt Rife thing, is that he's so insecure about the fact that he's seen as a crowd work comedian.
Yeah,
but
right.
like crowd work is a really good skill. Like I can't do it. Like he's like really good at crowd work. Like that's genuinely a skill that I don't have, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. Anyway, he's, you know, just a misogynist and whatever. But it's funny to me it's even comedians that I like, even comedians that don't do like the same kinds of shows that I do. They go like, oh, I wish I could do a show that had like kind of an arc and a story. And I'm like, God, I wish I could just tell jokes in a row and keep people laughing the whole time. Yeah. Like I wish I could do what you do. And it's like we can't keep doing this. There's no need.
The grass is always greener.
The grass is always greener. Yeah. I can't. The clips are interesting because also then people who don't really understand comedy come to shows, and comedy nerds, like I listen to comedy like it's music.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I have played the same sets over and over again. Like I could recite a lot. It's call the police. Like it's so crazy. I was doing a podcast about my like I don't use Spotify, but like my Apple Music Wrapped with a bunch of Irish podcasters, and they like I looked in my like they did about like the songs I'd listened to the most last year, and then I looked in my like top 25 most played songs of all time, and 2 of them are tracks from a comedy album of a person I know personally.
Oh wow. Care to name though?
Yeah, Laura Davis, my director.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like she's really good, and they're really good jokes, and I listen to them because they're really good jokes.
Yeah.
And like it's interesting. I was actually talking to her the other night about how making like stuff is so scary because you can't tell if it's good. Like from the inside, you can't. I write something and I'm like, I think that's an okay joke, but like I don't have anybody like from the inside. You actually just cannot know if it's good. It's just one of your jokes that you have. Yeah, and like. But the example I gave to Laura was like Sarah Kendall doesn't know that in 2015 when I was in high school, I was in year 12, she did a spot on the gala and I loved it so much that I like when it reran because I didn't really understand YouTube. I didn't really understand that they put it on YouTube. So I filmed the TV screen with my fucking iPod Touch so that I could re-listen to this set. And now that I know it is on YouTube, I've watched that set 100 times. Like I think it is a perfect set. And she probably watched it back the day it came out and was like, oh, I stumbled there and oh fuck, I fucked it up. And she doesn't know that I think it's a perfect joke. Like, you know,
but we're all our own biggest critics.
Exactly. And it's like there's no way. If I had said to her, like if we had been, you know, I hadn't started comedy yet, I hadn't finished high school yet, but you know, if I was there and I had said, I think that is a perfect joke, she still would not probably have believed me because that's a crazy thing to say to someone. But like, I have actively listened to it, watched it 100 times.
Also, I think everybody in the arts and entertainment space cannot take a compliment as well. No. You have to come back with being like, oh no, but that was not as good, or like, oh, I didn't really get that. You have to cut yourself down as well. It's so weird.
It's weird, and also in Australia and New Zealand especially, it's actually expected.
Yeah.
Like, because
you can't be your own biggest fan.
Yeah, literally. My parents are Kiwis and they're also definitely both autistic. Yeah. They have just accepted that now because I've been diagnosed and I'm like, you both have it. And they're like, okay, we definitely do. But so that's an interesting way as well because like my mum would teach me, you know, the social rules of like, someone says, how are you? You say, I'm well, how are you? And or someone gives you a compliment, you say, thank you. And then you give them another compliment or you continue the conversation. So people would say like, oh, I think you're really pretty. And I'd be like, thank you. And they would look like I had said the wrong thing. Yeah. And I was like, but you said that I was pretty. That's a nice thing to say. Why do you now think I'm a bad person because I
accepted it?
I didn't even agree with you. But I think to Australians and New Zealanders, accepting the compliment sounds like agreeing with you, and agreeing with you is bad.
It's crazy, right?
It's the same cultural cringe that means that we're not getting to make stuff. We have got to kill it. We have got to kill it.
Well, again, like it's the same thing. Like if you make something and it is really good, they'll be like, oh yeah, but like it's this and this and or these problems. And you're like, oh, it's just a fucking good film. Stop chopping it down.
I am fully like this year. I'm genuinely like, this is what I'm doing. Is I'm telling people when I like what they make, and I'm not letting them downplay it.
Yeah.
Like, because last year, like, it was, so awful that Carl Wilson passed away.
Yeah.
And it was so devastating. And it just made me be like, I could have told her at any point in the last 4 years how much I loved what she made and how good I thought she was. And I never did, because it's just not what you do.
No.
And now I can't. Yeah. And it sucks. And she had... And because I was a comedy nerd before I was a comedian, and because I was a suicidal teenager. So my parents used to do this thing, which I recommend for any parents of depressed teenagers. I don't know if they were doing it on purpose, but it worked really well. They would like book stuff every few weeks or every few months, so that I always had something to look forward to. Like, there were always tickets to a musical or comedy festival tickets or a show or a band. Like, there was always something. They would just book
coming up.
There was just always something coming up. And when I finished high school, my mum took me to Italy. And so it was like the whole year was just like, you just got to make it through this.
Yeah.
And we're going to go look at fucking
Italy.
Well, which is, very privileged that I was, we had the money to do that. But it was also like, she was like, you just have to
hold on,
survive.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a really nice time.
Yeah.
And so Comedy Festival was... In Brisbane Comedy Festival used to start on my birthday most of the time. So it was like end of Feb. And so I would get tickets for my birthday and we'd go to Brisbane. I think once they broke me out of music camp and took me to Brisbane to see someone's show because I was just having a horrific time. And they were like, actually, fuck this. Like,
wow.
We'll come get you and we'll go see a show. And I would go and see Tom Ballard every year. And I just thought he was so good.
Yeah.
I actually, because I'm filming my show from last year in a few weeks, which is terrifying, but I posted about it and he retweeted it, and I almost didn't see it or acknowledge it. And then I was like, made a little note in my phone that was like, hey, 15-year-old Grace, like, the guy that you think is really good at this, he thinks you're really good at this.
Well, you're his peer. He's your peer now. Like, you're in the same standing.
It is cool. Like, I, spent years watching him and being like, you're so funny, you're so good at this. And he not only thinks you're good at it, he thinks you're good enough at it that he wants to actively help you. Like, he gave me a quote for my poster, like, so kind. So I would go see him every year. I would see, I think we saw Fiona O'Loughlin.
Oh, yeah.
Reese Nicholson. I saw a bunch of people. Danielle Walker, who's also now just one of my friends, and Cal Wilson. And I loved her. I loved her shows. They were so good, and she was so funny. And a lot of my favorite comedians have this ability, like, to make you feel like you're the only person in the room, like they're just talking to you. And especially at 15, I was like, it just felt like they were talking to me, and I was like, I needed someone to make me feel like that.
Yeah.
And she had this joke, and it's not filmed anywhere. I can't find it. Like, I don't think she ever did it on a gala set. I think it was just a joke in an hour 1 year that I memorized. Like, I saw it once and it never left my brain. She was like, the people use the swan as like a metaphor because they're this beautiful gliding bird, and underneath they have these really powerful legs working really hard.
Yeah.
And it's like a metaphor to, like, you don't see the hard work that went into the art that you're looking at. And she's like, it's a good metaphor, but I don't feel like a swan. I feel like a decoy duck, and underneath is just two otters and an egg beater. What noise does a swan make? And I saw it once and I have it memorized.
Isn't that fucking amazing? Like, that from a performance where, like, maybe she didn't think it was her best joke, or like just an innocuous joke.
And then I had all the time in the world to tell her that I thought it was an incredible joke, and I didn't. And now I can't. And so I am actively trying to fight the Australian, New Zealand part of me that cringes at the idea of complimenting people or taking compliments, because I want people to hear the things that I think are good. And I think the awkwardness or the embarrassment of being the person who says that is worth it to have someone hear that, that you've made something really good and important to me.
Why are people embarrassed by that? Like, it's crazy.
It's not good.
Yeah.
We got to stop it.
There's a lot of stuff that people are doing nowadays they should be embarrassed for.
Oh, 100%.
But, like, that is insane that's one of them. Like, I genuinely... And that's
if I was like, oh, I thought it was great how you were drunk and fell in the gutter on the way out of the venue the other
Yeah.
night. That would be insane. That would be mean.
I think that'd be a very mean-spirited guess.
Those are embarrassing things that people are doing. But like saying you are good at the thing you do, so much so that I need to tell you.
Yeah.
Is not
like, not only that, but you made such an impression on your life in a very, like, difficult time as well. Like, that's fucking massive.
And even like the people who, when I was a teenager, like those ones are kind of easy to pinpoint because I've had more time away from them.
Yep.
But I'm like, I don't think I should wait that long anymore.
No,
I think I need
8 years.
No, I think I need to tell people. Like they come off stage, you know, and I'm like, that joke rules. I think it's great.
Just wait 8 years. I got a fucking compliment for you.
But I'll see if it passes the test of my memory.
Yeah, exactly, right?
We can't be doing that.
If I remember this joke in 8 years' time, I swear to God, you've got one compliment on your way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's such a nice sentiment as well.
Yeah,
exactly. I'll give you a quote for your poster.
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice way to wrap up the podcast as well, 100%. I'll be honest with you, Grace. Do you have any other stories off the top of your head from particularly embarrassing moments that you wanted to share that you came in with? Otherwise, I'm more than happy to start spooking all of your upcoming dates.
I don't think so. I feel like I've intermittently said about 100. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, we have a taping coming up.
Yes.
1 week today at the time of release for this podcast.
Yeah.
Friday the 2nd of February.
Friday the 2nd of February at Comedy Republic. It's called...
Beautiful venue as well.
Yeah, the best. Yeah. It's called This Is the Last Goldfish That I'm Going to Eat for You.
And that has had so many accolades from the past year of touring it as well.
Yeah, it's been really nice. And
yeah, that's awesome.
I almost feel kind of... Especially with like, I have so many, like I'm doing back-to-back festivals coming up. I feel like I'm running further than there is footpath in a lot of like, I feel like I'm asking too much of the world because I'm like, I already did the show in Melbourne and it went well, and I did it in Edinburgh and it went well. And I feel like maybe asking for one more time to get 100 people in a room is like too much and I'm going to fall through the cracks. But it's a good show and I want it on video.
Yeah,
and a bunch of people from other countries that I can't afford to tour like I want to see that thing.
Yeah.
So I'm filming it. And
hell yeah.
At Comedy Republic, 7 p.m. Friday 2nd. And then my new show, Oh the Horrors, is in Perth, Perth Fringe, Adelaide Fringe, Melbourne Comedy Festival, Brisbane Comedy Festival, and Sydney Comedy Festival.
Jesus.
And then Edinburgh. So come along to any of those as well. Work in progress. Perth is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'll be starting tonight when this comes out. So,
oh fuck yeah, that's so cool.
If there are any Perth comedy nerds who want to be involved in a show that isn't on its legs yet, those are usually the people that want to be involved.
You get to come and be a part of the making of.
My kind of people are the people who turn up to a work in progress and go, I want to see how this pans out.
Well, then you get to see it like that, and then you get to go back and see it in like 6 months' time as well.
100%.
Oh,
which is why we should film stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because then, the year that Hannah Gadsby did Nanette, I saw it at the Brisbane Comedy Festival. And because pre-pandemic, Brisbane Comedy Festival was the first in the run.
Yep.
So I saw it at Town Hall.
Yeah, right.
In the smaller room that I thought I would be doing when I did that gig. And I was like, oh, really great show. And then it was like...
took over the world.
Took over the world, and I was like, "Wow!" I just went
so special as well, right?
Yeah,
like, you get to see it. I've done that with a few comedians as well. Seen them in like just little 10-minute spots, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, that's Kevin Bridges." Now.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's incredible. Yeah, like I just went because I like Hannah Gadsby, and I went to her show last year, and I'll see it again this year. And
turns out a lot of people like Hannah Gadsby.
You saw like the show,
yeah, right.
So like I'm not saying that that's mine, but could be.
Yeah.
Depends on if I get my act together incredibly fast.
Perth, if you go and see it, it could be. So are you saying this could be potentially the new Nanette then?
Oh God, Jesus Christ.
I'm putting that in the show notes.
Yeah.
No, but if people wanted to find you as well.
Oh yeah, I'm at Grace Jarvis Oh No on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, everywhere.
Yeah, right.
I'm still a Twitter-based comedian.
Oh.
And I know it's dying, but nowhere else is as good.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nowhere else will thousands of Americans want me dead over a...
Well, any Americans listening, we can pump that number up on other platforms.
Yeah.
So,
if you want to criticize my social commentary and jokes, you can do it on all platforms.
Do it on Threads. Do it on Instagram.
Get on Threads.
Do it on Facebook.
TikTok.
Yes.
Hate comments,
TikTok's all about the hate comments.
It's only hate comments, from what I can tell.
Genuinely, yes.
Yeah.
And all of the links to all of your shows coming up will be in the show notes as well, so everybody go and check them out.
Yeah.
Do you have anywhere that people can go to just to see all your upcoming dates as well?
Just my link tree in my Instagram and Twitter bio will have all of my festival dates.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
Ticket links and tickets to the taping and stuff. So
perfect as well. Yeah, and then Comedy Republic as well. I presume we'll have the ticket links as well. So again, this will all be in the show notes. I put in so much fucking effort to the show notes every week. People, please come along, or please check them out. There's so many blue highlighted things you can click on down there. 100%.
Also, if you don't have ticket money and you want to come, message me, because like I'd rather have people in the room.
That's fantastic.
Than sell all the tickets. Like I find that the comedy nerds who can't afford are the ones I'd rather be there than the people who can buy a ticket.
The absolute irony.
Yeah. So if you don't have ticket money and you want to be there, just message me and I'll sort something out.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's so nice. And
not for the festivals, mostly just for the taping. I do actually have to make a living.
Your DMs just blow up. You're like, hi, I'm in Adelaide. Can I get 20 tickets?
No.
And you're in Gluttony as well, actually, aren't you?
Gluttony for Adelaide, yes.
I fucking love Gluttony. That's such a beautiful space.
It's outdoors, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, nice. Adelaide's usually pretty safe with weather, I think.
Yeah.
I say that and there'll be some sort
of storm.
It'll be warm,
now, but
yeah. Oh, warm's fine, right?
Yeah, I think so. Last time I did Adelaide, it was a basement of a Masonic lodge, and it was described as illegally warm. So
wow.
At least outdoors there'll be
legally
airflow.
warm. Yeah. And Gluttony's just a fucking sick place to be anyway.
Yeah,
you get to be one of those Gluttony people as well. You get your extra special pass.
Yeah.
You feel better than the rest of them.
I'm just wandering around Adelaide being like, wow, I don't know much of what's going on here.
I think that's most people in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Again, Adelaide exists outside of the fringe, but
it does,
then
100%.
It's really just
City of churches.
I enjoy it.
24-hour bakeries. Yeah.
Yeah, Rundle Street Mall. Come and see it all.
I'm just plugging city centres now.
Yes. So if you want to see any more of
support the high street.
Grace encouraging you to go and visit city centres, jump on all the social links, and then the same as every week as well, you Won't Be Forgetting That pod across most of the social media platforms as well. Myself, Seb Muirhead, Muirhead, on Instagram and YouTube. I am not on Twitter because I am too scared.
Well, it's too late now. Don't start now.
I can't start at the end of the life?
Definitely not.
Okay, good.
Don't jump aboard a sinking ship.
I'll jump onto Threads
I'm only stuck there because that's where most of my followers are.
You don't get to export them as well.
It's very annoying.
Come on, Elon. You fucking
get involved.
Get it together.
Yeah.
And then we have the Patreon page as well. Patreon.com/Won't Be Forgetting That pod. Anything that you can contribute is genuinely appreciated. And if you can't, a 5-star review on any podcast platform of choice would be really appreciated too. Write anything you want in the comments. As long as it's 5 stars, you can genuinely write whatever you want in the comments. I encourage the weirder the better.
I did the Confessions podcast with Sam Peterson the other day.
Friend of the show. Yeah, Sammy's been on here as well.
Yeah, and Mish Wittrup, who I was on with,
also friend of the show.
Midway through the podcast was like, guys, go on the socials and just comment best podcast of the year under the just go on there, and just all these people being like best podcast of the year, and I'm like, all the people who haven't listened to this are like, wow, it must be really good. It's just people who can follow instructions.
For this one, 5 stars, worst podcast of the year. As I stumble over that, I'm a stunt performer. Sorry, I have brain damage. I can't speak properly, which is perfect for doing a podcast.
Yeah.
But yes, sorry, we will finish this up. Once again, thank you so much, Grace.
No, thanks for having me.
Go fill out Comedy Republic next week.
Yeah, 100%.